The city was already awake long before dawn, and so was the scandal. Outside the Thurgood Marshall United States Courthouse, television lights sliced through the fog, washing Foley Square in white glare and restless noise. Reporters lined up behind barricades like soldiers waiting for battle. Every few minutes a helicopter passed overhead, cameras trained on the building as though history were about to leak from its windows. The night air smelled of rain, metal, and coffee. A woman in a red coat was live on MSNBC, her voice trembling with excitement. "This isn't just a trial," she said into the mic. "It's political theater. Melania Trump versus Jasmine Crockett. The First Lady versus the firebrand Congresswoman. And it begins in just 2 hours." In a suite at the Plaza Hotel, Melania Trump stared into the mirror as her makeup artist dabbed foundation over skin that already looked porcelain. She didn't move, barely breathed. Her reflection was flawless, untouchable, and yet there was something brittle about her stillness. Behind her, attorney Charles Harder spoke into his phone, packing the length of the room. "Yes, we've filed the motion. No, the texts won't be admissible. They're fabrications. I don't care what Twitter says." He ended the call and looked at her reflection. "We need you calm. No expressions, no reactions. The jury must see you as dignity itself." Melania gave a small nod. "I always am." Down the hall, 2 of her aides scrolled through trending hashtags. "Crockett Clapback is already number 2, one whispered. The other frowned. "Number 1 is fake wife files." Melania's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Only her reflection blinked. Across town, in a narrow office lined with protest posters and coffee cups, Rep. Jasmine Crockett sat surrounded by her team. She wore no makeup, just a gray hoodie and tired eyes that still burned. "They're going to call me a liar, a racist, and a witch," she said flatly. "They'll say I'm doing this for fame, but tomorrow they'll see I brought facts to a gunfight." Her chief of staff grinned. "You sure you want to show everything?" Crockett smirked. "Oh, I'm not showing everything, just enough to end her." By sunrise, the courthouse steps were a carnival of chaos. Trump loyalists waved flags and carried posters of Melania's Vogue cover. Activists countered with "Truth has receipts" banners. The smell of street food mingled with sweat and adrenaline. CNN reporters rehearsed their intros, and a Fox News correspondent practiced his witch hunt tone in the mirror of a news van. Inside, federal marshals swept the courtroom twice. Secret Service agents took their places. At 9:27 a.m., the doors opened. Melania entered first. The crowd surged forward, flashes exploding like fireworks. She moved with that same slow, deliberate grace, each step measured, her heels echoing across marble. People went silent as she passed. To some, she looked like royalty. To others, like a ghost of a crumbling empire. She sat down beside Harder, who whispered something only she could hear. Her eyes never left the judge's bench. Then came Jasmine Crockett. The room changed temperature when she entered. Dressed in a red power suit that dared anyone to look away, she walked straight down the aisle, her head high, her lips curved just enough to say she wasn't intimidated. A murmur rolled through the audience. "That's her," someone whispered. "That's the congresswoman who called Melania a fake wife." Another voice muttered, "She doesn't look scared at all." Judge Alvin Hellerstein entered moments later, the bailiff's call echoing off the walls. 92 years old, sharp as a blade. He had seen mobsters, billionaires, and presidents pass through this courtroom. Today, it was a war between a former first lady and a rising political star. He adjusted his glasses, looked over the packed gallery, and sighed. "If anyone so much as breathes out of turn," he said, "I will clear this room. Understood?" The silence that followed was thick enough to touch. He banged the gavel once. "Trump versus Crockett. Case 125 CV 09234. Plaintiff alleges defamation per se. Defendant claims truth and First Amendment protection. Counsel, proceed." Harder rose first. He smoothed his tie and approached the podium like a man stepping onto a stage. "Your Honor," he began, his voice smooth, practiced, and dripping with control. "The defendant's statements were malicious. Representative Crockett accused my client of being a fake wife who married for citizenship. These are not opinions, not jokes, not political banter. They are lies, designed to humiliate a woman who served this nation with grace." He turned toward Melania, who gazed ahead, unblinking. "Mrs. Trump is not just a former First Lady. She is a mother, a public figure, and a symbol of integrity. She deserves justice." Murmurs rose, cameras clicked. The courtroom hummed with attention. Even the judge seemed to lean forward slightly. When Harder finished, Crockett stood slowly. Her heels clicked once, twice, 3 times, and then silence followed her like a shadow. She walked to the podium and adjusted the microphone. "Your Honor," she said, her voice calm but edged with steel, "truth is an absolute defense, and I've got receipts." It was the way she said it, casual, confident, final, that made the air shift. People straightened in their seats. Harder froze. Melania's left hand tightened around her pen, the only sign of movement she'd shown all morning. Outside, a gust of wind rattled the courthouse windows, and for a second, it felt like even Manhattan was holding its breath. Crockett lifted her phone. "Let's start simple," she said. The projector hummed to life, casting light over the oak panels. A faint blue glow washed over the faces in the crowd. "These," she said, "are authenticated, time-stamped, and verified." She pressed a button, and the first image appeared on the wall, a screenshot, familiar interface, black text on a white screen. "These," she said, "are text messages between Mrs. Trump and her son, Barron." Gasps echoed. Harder stepped forward. "Objection, we haven't confirmed." But Crockett's voice cut through him like a blade. "Oh, you'll confirm. Everyone will." The judge raised a brow. "You have authentication." "3 independent forensic analysts," Crockett replied. "Blockchain verified, cross-referenced with the plaintiff's iCloud metadata, every timestamp matches." The murmuring grew louder, a tidal wave of disbelief. Melania's jaw tightened, and for the first time she blinked slowly once. The judge gestured for the lights to dim. "Proceed." Crockett smiled faintly. "Let's read the first one together." The room leaned in. The tension was unbearable. Texts, Melania to Barron, March 14, 2025, 2:47 a.m. And then the courtroom held its breath as Crockett's voice, low and precise, began to read the words that would shatter everything. Crockett's voice was calm, but the tremor beneath it was unmistakable. She looked at the screen and began to read. "Melania, he's asking too many questions again." "Barron, he's my father, Mom." "Melania, he's his father, not yours. Never forget that." The room fell utterly silent. No one even breathed. Then chaos. Reporters gasped. Someone dropped a pen that clattered like thunder. Harder shot to his feet. "Objection, Your Honor, fabrication. This is an invasion of privacy." "Sit down, counselor," Judge Hellerstein snapped. His tone had gone from measured to lethal. "This will be verified, but if it's true, it's not fabrication. Continue, Ms. Crockett." Crockett's eyes didn't move from the screen. "Thank you, Your Honor." "Barron, then who is my father?" "Melania, it doesn't matter. He died years ago. What matters is that you keep quiet. The world wouldn't understand." Gasps echoed like a chain reaction. Melania's face didn't move, but her knuckles turned white. Harder whispered something frantically in her ear, but she didn't respond. The judge adjusted his glasses, staring down at the pages in front of him like they were explosives. "Ms. Crockett," he said slowly, "I trust you're prepared to substantiate these messages." "I am," Crockett said, tapping her tablet. The screen split into 3 panels, timestamps, message metadata, and a digital certificate signed by Cipher Trace Forensics. The chain of evidence appeared seamless. "Verified independently," she said. "And," she turned toward the defense table, "I also have something Mrs. Trump's team tried to suppress." She raised a brown envelope. A sealed DNA report from 2017, ordered quietly by a private investigator on behalf of the Trump Organization, filed under the alias Project Silver. The results. "Objection," Harder shouted. "This is private medical information." "Overruled," said the judge. "Proceed." The envelope opened with the faintest sound of tearing paper. Crockett drew out a single sheet, printed in blue ink. "This report compared the genetic profiles of Donald J. Trump and Barron William Trump. The conclusion reads." She paused. For a heartbeat, the courtroom was utterly still. Then she read. "Probability of paternity, 0%. The room exploded. People shouted. Cameras clicked wildly. The bailiff yelled for order. Reporters were already racing out the door to call their editors. Harder pounded the table, red-faced. "Your Honor, this is outrageous. This entire stunt is a smear campaign." But the judge wasn't listening. His gaze was fixed on Melania. "Mrs. Trump," he said, voice low, "do you wish to respond?" Melania didn't answer. She just stared ahead, unmoving. For the first time, the mask cracked, just slightly, a twitch at the corner of her mouth, a flicker of something like pain. Then, quietly, "That report was never meant for the public." "So it's real?" Crockett asked softly. Melania closed her eyes. "It was to protect my son. He didn't need to know." Crockett leaned forward. "Protect him, or protect yourself." That hit like a strike of lightning. Melania's eyes opened again, and now they were cold, distant, the kind that could freeze a room. "You don't understand the world I lived in. I did what I had to. For him. For me." Judge Hellerstein banged his gavel. "Enough. We're not trying character here, we're trying truth. And the truth," he said, glancing at the screen, "appears complex." Outside the courthouse, chaos reigned. News alerts were everywhere. Breaking. DNA report SUGGSDS Trump not DONALD Trump's son. Social media was melting down in real time. Fake wife files had turned into Barron bombshell. Journalists were speculating, activists were spinning, and political analysts were trying and failing to sound neutral. Inside, the court recessed. Melania remained seated, motionless, while her legal team huddled like storm survivors. Harder hissed, "We can't win this. Settle, countersue, anything." But Melania wasn't listening. Her gaze was locked on Jasmine Crockett, who stood across the room, calm and collected, sipping water like she hadn't just detonated a global scandal. Finally, Melania rose. The noise in the courtroom died instantly. She walked slowly to the witness stand, ignoring Harder's protest. "Your Honor," she said quietly, "I would like to testify." A ripple went through the room. Even Crockett blinked. Judge Hellerstein nodded. "Proceed." Melania took the oath, her voice steady. Then she sat down and folded her hands. "I never lied to the American people," she began. "I married a man who promised me protection, power, and a life for my child. When I found out the truth that Barron wasn't his, Donald didn't care. He saw opportunity. He said, 'America loves a family photo.' So I played my role. I smiled. I waved. I stood in silence while they built monuments to a marriage that never existed." The courtroom was so quiet. You could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. "I didn't do it for love," she continued, voice cracking just slightly. "I did it to survive. And if survival makes me fake, then yes, I am a fake wife. But so are half the people who pretend this country still has integrity." She stopped. No one spoke. Even Crockett looked stunned. The judge rubbed his temples. "Mrs. Trump, that may be the most honest thing said in this courtroom today." Then, turning to Crockett, "Congresswoman, I assume this is where your case rests." Crockett hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." The judge sighed, then addressed the packed room. "In all my years on this bench, I've seen power destroy people. Today, it destroyed illusions. The court finds in favor of the defendant, Representative Jasmine Crockett. Statements made were substantially true and protected under the First Amendment." The gavel came down with a single, heavy strike. Cameras went wild. Reporters shouted questions that drowned each other out. Melania stood, looking small for the first time. Harder tried to guide her out, but she shook him off. Crockett gathered her papers quietly. As she passed Melania, their eyes met one final time. No hatred, no victory, just exhaustion. Two women who'd burned each other down for the truth. Outside, the storm of microphones and flashing lights swallowed them both. By sunset, the world had changed.